I'm Dawn Robinson, and I'm a professor in the Sociology department at the University of Georgia. I'm also a fellow in the Owens Institute for Behavioral Research, and I'm on the faculty of the Georgia Informatics Institute for Research and Education. I did my doctoral work at Cornell University in sociology, where I specialized in social psychology and social networks. After that, I did a postdoc at Stanford University in an NIH training program on normal and abnormal group processes in the Department of Sociology also. I'm a social psychologist, and most of my work focuses on refining and testing mathematical models of how social structure and culture get reproduced and sometimes challenged through social interactions. Most of my work sits on the intersection of multiple fields, both methodologically and theoretically. So I collaborate with linguists, engineers, mathematicians, computer scientists, psychologists, physiologists, education researchers. One of the projects I'm working on right now involves developing and testing some new models that make predictions about the course of social interactions, both within and between cultures, before they occur. So this work builds on a long tradition in affect control theory that does model social interactions using culturally grounded equations, but we're elaborating that both by extending the number of cultures for which we have models to places like Egypt and Morocco and soon Korea, as well as adding the capacity to simulate interactions between participants who have wildly different understandings of how a social interaction should proceed. The thing that excites me most about this work is that the model itself is both rigorous and generative, so that it can make predictions prospectively, so that it can be tested and falsified, but it also is generative in that it can make nearly a limitless number of predictions about unique and novel situations and settings from a relatively limited amount of input. And so that sets it apart from simpler models of culture that are sort of enumerations of rules or other kinds of discursive lists. So imagine that you're visiting a foreign culture and you would like to pay your host a compliment. And so you reach out for your app to help you translate the best words to use to pay your host a compliment. Using the models that we've developed, in addition to thinking about the words that you might use to pay that compliment, you can actually consider whether or not this is a culture in which that compliment might be received with gratitude and pleasure, or whether it might actually produce awkwardness and embarrassment, or perhaps even some kind of irritation at the publicness of the acknowledgement of the host's graciousness. And so using these tools, you could actually generate a reasonable course of interaction for making that interaction go as smoothly as possible. If you're interested in learning more about my research, you can send me an email or look up the Laboratory for the Study of Social Interaction in the Department of Sociology at UGA.